Standing up to scammers, crooks, criminals, usurpers everywhere. Thank you for joining us. This is a 5.5-minute clip. This segment's 5 minutes. We're going to play part of it, come back with the rest, then Bob Chapman. And your phone calls will shift into the economy and a bunch of other climategate news that's coming out as their whole fraud crashes and burns beautifully. But here's Senator Sensenbrenner grilling the chief eugenicist, the White House science czar, John P. Holdren. Here is that video and audio.
Back to the emails that ended up being placed in the public record. And I don't want to get to whether or not they were legally placed in the public record. The question is whether or not they were accurate. Because if they were accurate, it's profoundly disturbing, and it does end up.
They're admitted to be accurate. They're admitted to be real.
Climate change.
I want to add that.
Now, the data from the climate research unit at the UEA in England is one of only 3 major data sets, but they considerably overlap. And they've been used as a basis for the IPCC report as well as the U.S. Global Change Research Program. And that means that these 2 booklets that were passed out this morning, at best need to have a thorough review in the light of this information that has been disclosed. And at worst, it's junk science, and it is a part of a massive international scientific fraud. Now, Dr. Holden, you've been in the middle of a lot of this, and I've got a couple of questions based upon your statements before you joined the Obama administration. You gave an interview in August of 2006 with BBC News in the UK, and you said that a sea level rise of up to 13 feet was in the realm of possibility. However, that's 11 feet higher than what the IPCC has estimated over this period of time, which is somewhere between 7 and 23 inches. Now, with respect to the hockey stick theory, which the chairman has referred to, that's been pretty much discredited in the scientific community. And yet, in your October 13th email, which is now in the public record, you aggressively attacked the 2 scientists that put this together, a Dr. Willie Soon and a Dr. Sally Baliunas, for that. Now, I think it's pretty clear that in both cases you were wrong. And I guess I'd like to know if you're concerned now that you're in the White House and representing all of the public, whether you're concerned about the misrepresentation of the state of science with respect to global warming. And I'd also like to know if you still support the principal critic of the those who trashed the hockey stick theory, and that is a Dr. Michael Mann, knowing of his efforts now to hide his data and to encourage his colleagues to shut out journals like Climate Research to publish works contrary to his own bias.
Congressman, let me try to take those in the order you asked them. And the very first part of your statement, with respect, I would disagree with you that this current uproar calls into question all of climate science. I do not believe that it...
We're going to come back and finish the last few minutes of Pinhead up there lying. But you notice he said uproar. They know it's an uproar. That's why Gore is now canceling a lot of his speaking engagements and in Copenhagen canceling his big engagement. Because everywhere they go, people are shouting them down, bringing up ClimateGate. They just can't sit up there and push their fraud now without being challenged. People are challenging them everywhere. And so they're kind of retreating for now, hoping we forget about this so they can come back and continue setting up their global government. And that's Ban Ki-moon, head of the UN, Secretary General, saying the carbon tax is the funding mechanism for the world government. That's what I report in my film, Fall of the Republic. It exposes the whole ClimateGate fraud. That's why everybody needs to get it on DVD at Infowars.com and get a free Obama T-shirt, anti-Obama T-shirt when they do. Halfway into this transmission, Bob Chapman joining us after the break to break down the economy. Your phone calls at 1-800-259-9231 as well on this Friday, December 4th, 2009 edition. We're continuing exposing the ClimateGate fraud, now into week number 2. And here's Holdren after he was just exposed as a fraud, saying, well, I don't think this uproar brings into question that sea levels are going to rise 13 feet, when no one's saying that but him and Schwarzenegger, literally just making this up, and sea levels have actually dropped in San Francisco. Here we go. Here's the rest of it.
Try to take those in the order you asked them. And the very first part of your statement, with respect, I would disagree with you that this current uproar calls into question all of climate science. I do not believe that it remotely.
Well, sir, I didn't
that.
say that. I said it ought to be looked at again. And, you know, there's increasing evidence of scientific fascism that's going on. And I think as policymakers who are making decisions about the state of the American economy for the next several generations, that we ought to have accurate science. And it appears there's enough question on whether the science we have is accurate. That's got to be.
Yeah. Back it up a few seconds. That's key. See, this is a private group of banks that are openly, Goldman Sachs and others, financing the carbon taxes, Al Gore and others, where you will pay taxes directly to them, then they give some of it to the UN. And they share it with your local communities, hence federalizing, internationalizing, and privatizing. This is piracy. This is a takeover of our entire economy. They say they want to abolish coal-powered fuel. 51% of our power comes from coal. This is a total hijacking by these criminals that want a monopoly. This is a takeover. Go back to it.
Several generations, that we ought to have accurate science, and it appears there's enough question on whether the science we have is accurate. That's got to be resolved, and I wish we could have done it in this hearing, but the chairman wouldn't let us. But go ahead.
I very much agree that we need to resolve the current issue. It's important to understand what has really gone on here to get to the bottom of it. As I indicated before, that's been one of the strengths of science over the years, the capacity to get to the bottom of the controversies that emerge.
In this book, Eco-Science, where he says he wants to drug the water supply to sterilize you and set up a planetary regime to carry out forced one-child policies. They're now teaching that in public schools worldwide. Right here in the U.S., it's being taught. We have the UN documents where they talk about how they're brainwashing your kids through the Department of Education. In here, he said we were going to have an ice age by 2000. He wrote this in, what, 1976? Or was it 1974? I've got Eco-Science. 1977. Where's the ice age? You are a scientific fraud by design, and you're not going to investigate your own scientist engaged in fraud for you. You're in the emails, Holdren. You're involved in the fraud, you criminal. Back to him.
I believe we'll get to the bottom of this one. But the key point is, however this particular controversy comes out, the result will not call into question the bulk of our understanding of how the climate works or how humans are affecting it. You mentioned an interview of mine a few years ago.
I can't help it. The UN's own IPCC fairy tale says that the ocean's going to be between 7 inches and 23 inches, but you really read, they say the mean's about 1 foot, 12 inches. Then he says it's settled that man is changing the climate. The UN's own report says man is 3 to 4% of the gases that they claim are heating things up. It's a fraud. One volcano puts out more than man's put out in the last 100 years. He's a complete liar. Let's come back from break, play the last minute of this, and then go to Bob Chapman. But I'm really getting a headache here just looking at this. This is a sinister little eugenicist, little population reducer. This guy makes me sick. Stay with us. Bob Chapman coming up with the latest with the Federal Reserve being rounded. So much other good news. More on ClimateGate, your phone calls. We'll be right back on the other side. This is the one, the only GCN Radio Network. We're also simulcasting via television at prisonplanet.tv.